My dad demanded my inheritance, 15% of the company, to protect the family. They called me the family traitor when I refused. Then Grandpa's will dropped a twist nobody expected. Sup, Reddit. Imagine growing up the ignored kid while your sister was the favorite. Then imagine your parents trying to steal your inheritance for her using fake paperwork. Now imagine their plan collapsing publicly while you get the last laugh. Let me show you what happened. I, Felicia, 28, female, grew up in a family where favoritism wasn't subtle. It was basically the family sport. My dad ran the house like he ran arguments, loud and final. Mom followed his lead. My younger sister, Amy, the golden child since day one. Me, I learned early on that if I wanted anything, I had to figure it out myself. Some families fight over vacations or whose turn it is to do dishes. Mine, we fight over inheritance, board seats, and who gets to play king. Amy got the bigger slice of cake because she's the baby. The bigger allowance because dance is expensive. If you ever wonder what entitled, rude, toxic looks like, wrapped in one neat family photo, that's us. Grandpa was the only different one. Built his logistics company from one truck into a regional player. Straightforward man. Believed in equal work, equal rewards. When he passed, he left shares of the company split evenly between his kids and grandkids. Fair, simple, or so I thought. So, when I woke up Wednesday morning to an email from my dad titled Routine Proxy, signed by Thursday noon, I already knew nothing about this was going to be routine. 3 sentences total. It's just paperwork, he wrote, keeps things smooth. Attached was a PDF called Proxy Authorization Routine, right? I opened it on my laptop while eating breakfast. Legal language halfway down basically said, grants all voting rights for shareholder interest to acting executive until further notice. Acting executive equals dad. Shareholder interest equals my 15% of Grandpa's logistics company. I stared at the screen. One signature and I'd hand him control over my vote indefinitely, not selling my shares. But in a company like this, voting rights decide everything. Dividends, board seats, mergers, real power. If it was truly harmless, he wouldn't need me blindfolded. Dad's the executive, acts like it makes him king. My family, entitled, loud, allergic to logic. Facts bounce off them like rubber bullets. Quick snapshot so you get it. Senior year, I finally made it to regionals in boxing. Been training since I was 15. Early mornings, cold runs, bruised ribs, all of it. Coach said I had a real shot this time. The gym was packed that night. Even the local paper had someone there with a camera. I sent my parents the date 2 weeks before. Mom texted back, "We'll see." Dad didn't answer. Amy had her dance recital the same weekend, but hers was on Saturday afternoon. My fight was Friday night. No overlap. Bell rings. 3 rounds. I win on points. Gold medal. A handshake from the mayor. Flash from the cameras. I looked into the stands after the ref raised my hand. Empty seats where they should have been. Afterward, I called home. Mom said they were resting up for Amy's recital tomorrow and didn't want to drive twice in one weekend. Dad told me over speakerphone, "Boxing isn't a real future. Don't get carried away." Next day at Amy's recital, they had flowers, balloons, the whole cheering section, photos all over Facebook. Meanwhile, my medal sat in the glove box of my car. That was the pattern. No matter what I did, grades, sports, college acceptances, Amy's stuff always mattered more. At some point, you just stop expecting anything else. Back to the email. Deadline was in bold. Return by Thursday, 12:12 p.m. I grabbed my notebook and wrote, "Proxy received, 7:12 a.m., Wednesday. Deadline, noon Thursday. Board meeting, Friday, 4:12 p.m. I wasn't signing anything until I knew what game he was playing. I called Mark, Grandpa's old partner. He picked up on the 3rd ring. "Morning, kid," he said. Mark ran operations for Grandpa for 20 years. Knew the company inside out. "Got an email," I told him. "Proxy authorization. Dad says routine." Silence. Then a short laugh. "Routine like a fox in a chicken coop. Listen carefully. Your grandfather added a conduct clause to the will. Anyone pulling shady stuff risks losing their share. He did it after your parents tried convincing him to leave everything to Amy 2 years ago. There's proof. Where? Blue binder, storage unit on Kellerman Road. Look under the tool chest. Get it before they remember it exists. While I'm jotting down directions, Mom texts, just sign it, keep things in the family, and Amy needs security. We already talked about this. We talked? No, they talked. I wasn't invited. I forwarded the proxy to my work email, opened it on my bigger monitor, and Googled shareholder proxy rights permanent transfer. Every result basically said, once you hand it over, getting it back can be a legal swamp. At lunch, I drove to Kellerman Storage. Rows of metal doors with peeling numbers. Grandpa's was D14. Still had the spare key from last summer when we cleared out his fishing gear. Inside smelled like dust and old oil. There was the tool chest, dented lid, county fair sticker from 1994. Underneath, just like Mark said, blue 3-inch binder labeled Board Minutes plus Miss C. I flipped it open on my tailgate. First section, Board Minutes for the past 10 years. Second, photocopy of Grandpa's will with highlighted parts about equal distribution. Third, a signed, notarized letter dated last spring. Grandpa's handwriting on the bottom margin said, equal means equal. No pressure, no tricks. Keep the company honest. That line alone made the proxy look toxic. I photographed every page, both on my phone and Nate's. He's my college buddy, now a CPA. I left the original binder locked in D14 overnight. Chain of custody matters. Photos now, certified copies tomorrow. Nate met me there on his lunch break to witness everything. Timestamps, location tags, the works. Paranoid much? He said while I scanned. Dad calls it routine, I told him. Routine doesn't need lawyers later. Back home, I saved everything 3 places. Laptop, cloud, encrypted USB, folders labeled by date, not cute names. Dates win in court. I called Mark back. Got the binder, letters signed, notarized, clear as day. He exhaled. Good. Re-notarized copies tomorrow. Judges like certified stuff. And kid? Yeah? Don't miss the deadline. Board meeting's Friday. He wants your vote in his pocket before then. I set alarms on my phone about the dates. Mom called again around dinner. I let it go to voicemail. Her message said, this drama is not necessary. Just sign it. Your father knows business better than you. Maybe. But Grandpa knew him better than both of us. Tomorrow we see what a judge thinks. Thursday morning, 7:00 a.m. Alarm. I had 3 tasks. Lawyer consult, notary copies, courthouse filing if needed. Nothing fancy, just a checklist. By 8, I was driving toward the Kellerman storage unit again. Mark said the binder alone wouldn't stop Dad. Judges like certified stuff, chain of custody, clear timelines. The original letter was signed and notarized, but having certified copies shut down excuses. Halfway there, my phone rang. Mom, I put it on speaker. Morning, I said. You heading to work? She asked. Voice was sharp, like I'd missed curfew. Errand first, I told her. She paused. Then, if you're going to the storage unit, look under the tool chest drawers. Blue binder. Your grandfather kept everything in there. You should have told your father before digging through his things. I didn't answer right away. Dad knew the binder existed? Of course, she sniffed. He helped your grandfather put it together. And that was news. Meant Dad knew exactly what was inside. Anyway, she said, sign the proxy and stop making this difficult. He's trying to keep things smooth. Smooth for who? I didn't bother arguing. Storage unit D14 looked the same. Metal door groaning on the way up. Dust everywhere. I had gloves this time. Pulled the blue binder out. Flipped pages on the tailgate again, just to be sure. Board minutes, will photocopy, the same notarized letter, his margin note about equal shares and keeping the company honest. I set the binder on the passenger seat, locked the unit, and drove straight to a notary office on Main Street. The notary was a small place between a laundromat and a pawn shop. Older guy behind the counter looked bored until I showed him the letter. He checked the original, made 3 certified copies, each with the official stamp and signature. Took maybe 15 minutes. While waiting, I texted Nate a photo of the new stamps with the timestamp visible. Chain of custody, no gaps. By 9:30, I was in the parking lot of Patel and Company, a small law firm Mark recommended. Simple brick building, brass letters by the door. Inside, a receptionist pointed me to a conference room where Ms. Patel, mid-40s, sharp suit, already had my email open on her laptop. Quick legal compass. Ms. Patel represents me. Company counsel represents the corporation, not me, Dad, or any individual shareholder. You're the granddaughter with the proxy issue? She asked. I nodded. She read fast, flipping through the binder copy and the proxy email. Your father's trying to secure voting rights before tomorrow's board meeting, she said. If you sign this, he controls your share indefinitely, unless he voluntarily returns it or you sue. Either way, expensive. Grandpa's conduct clause? I asked. She tapped the will photocopy. Right here, any beneficiary who exerts coercion or manipulates estate distribution forfeits their share. That's serious language. If we show the court he pressured you or misrepresented facts, he risks losing his portion entirely. Next step? We file for a temporary restraining order. Judge can freeze any proxy transfers until a hearing. You have the notarized letter, the will, the email with the deadline, strong timeline. How soon? I can have it in front of a judge this afternoon. By 10:30, we were at the courthouse clerk's office. Metal detector at the door. Long hallway smell of coffee and floor wax. Ms. Patel handled paperwork while I paid the filing fee at another window. We waited outside the judge's chambers for maybe an hour. When called in, Ms. Patel summarized everything cleanly. Proxy email with a deadline, family pressure, Grandpa's letter, conduct clause. Showed each exhibit in order. The judge looked at me. You're saying you were asked to sign this without explanation? Yes, Your Honor, I said. And the board meeting's tomorrow? He nodded slowly. Temporary restraining order granted. No proxy transfers until further review next week. Ms. Patel handed me 2 certified copies of the order. Keep one for the board meeting, she said. Give the other to company counsel so they know it's official. Outside, I called Mark. We have a TTRO, I told him. Good, he said. Bring it tomorrow. Boardroom 345. He'll try to push a vote before 4. I drove home. Binder and court order on the passenger seat. At a red light, my phone buzzed. Text from Dad. Heard you're running to lawyers. This isn't how family handles things. Sign the proxy and stop making a scene. I didn't reply. Another text came 5 minutes later. You're making a mistake you'll regret. Saved both messages. Timestamps matter. Back at my place, I spread everything on the kitchen table. Binder, certified copies, proxy email printed out, court order on top, labeled folders by number. Simple, chronological, easy for anyone to follow. I emailed Ms. Patel scanned copies for her records, then backed everything up to cloud storage and 2 flash drives. One stayed with me, one went into a safe deposit box at the bank before closing. By 5:00 p.m., everything was prepped. The board meeting was less than 24 hours away. Dad wanted my signature. Instead, he'd get a court order and Grandpa's margin note. Equal shares, no coercion. Tomorrow we see how he reacts when the board hears it too. Thursday night, 7:45 p.m. My phone buzzed with a screenshot from a cousin. Family group chat blowing up. Someone claimed I was selling my shares to outsiders and going against Grandpa's legacy. Perfect timing, right before the board meeting, too. Another screenshot followed, this one from a company Slack channel. Heard one shareholder wants to cash out. Big changes coming. I hadn't said a single word about selling. Dad was planting rumors, sloppy ones, but still enough to stir people up. I saved everything. Timestamps, usernames, phone numbers. If it was digital, it got screenshotted. By 8:15, Amy called for the first time all week. Hey, she said, voice low. Dad's pacing the house like a general. He keeps saying you're making the family look bad. He told you to call me? I asked. Silence for a moment. Then, he left some papers on the counter, looked like plans. I took pictures before he came back. Seconds later, my phone buzzed again. Photos of Dad's transition plan printed in bullet points. Secure voting proxy from Felicia. Board approval for executive management rights. Extended control until next annual meeting. Authority to handle shareholder negotiations. Clear as day. This wasn't just one vote. He wanted control for the next year, maybe longer. You all right? I asked Amy. She sighed. I'm fine. Just tired of all this. Don't sign anything he hands you. Not one page, I told her. She promised she wouldn't. At 8:40, I emailed the transition plan photos to Ms. Patel. 10 minutes later, she replied, "This is good. Shows intent and premeditation. We'll use it if needed. Bring copies to the board meeting." Friday morning, 6:30. I started early, printed everything. The TTRO, Grandpa's letter, will excerpts, proxy email, text from my parents, Slack screenshots, transition plan photos, labeled A through J, a clean timeline the board could follow. I called Mark. Got the documents, I told him. Good, he said. Your father's been calling directors since last night, trying to stack the room before you get there. What time should I show up? 3:45 sharp. Meeting starts at 4. He'll try to push a vote early. By 9:03, I was at Ms. Patel's office. She spread everything across her conference table. Grouping exhibits. Neat stack. They argue emotion, she said. We argue paper. She added sticky notes marking key lines so board members couldn't pretend they missed them. At 10:30, Dad sent a text. Sign the proxy today and keep this in the family. No need for outsiders. I didn't respond. 15 minutes later, you refuse? Don't blame me for what happens next. Saved both messages. Around 11:00, Mark called again. He just left a voicemail for one of the directors saying you're planning to sell your stake to competitors. That's new, I said. Lie travels fast, Mark replied. Get here early. Show the board the TTRO before he starts spinning. By noon, I was at a print shop making fresh copies of everything. Color prints for Grandpa's letter and the transition plan photo. Bigger font, highlighted sections. I brought originals and large, clear prints, easy to read in the room. While waiting, I overheard 2 employees at the next table talking about the rumors. I heard someone's cashing out, one said. Whole company might change hands. Exactly what Dad wanted them thinking. Later, Amy texted again. Dad's on the phone with Uncle Ray now. Keep saying you're siding with lawyers over family. He told Mom you're embarrassing him. I told her to stay out of it. Last thing she needed was to get dragged further in. By 1:30, I was downtown near headquarters. The building was 30 stories of glass and steel. Freight trucks lined up behind the loading docks like always. Grandpa started with 1 truck back there 40 years ago. Now the company ran 3 states. I parked in the public lot across the street, double-checked the folder. Everything labeled, everything dated. At 2:15, Ms. Patel called. Reminder, if he tries to push a vote before the agenda starts, read the TTRO out loud. They ignore it, they risk contempt. Understood, I said. By 2:45, I was in the lobby. Receptionist gave me a visitor badge. Boardroom's on 28, she said. Elevator ride up was quiet. Just me, the folder, and 3 directors who avoided eye contact after recognizing my name. When the doors opened, I saw Mark leaning against the wall near the boardroom entrance. Everything ready? He asked. I held up the folder, labeled and certified. Good, he said. He's been in there talking to people for 20 minutes trying to line up support. 3:30. Board members started arriving. Suits, briefcases, polite nods. Dad, too. Perfect tie, calm face, like nothing was happening. He saw me, didn't say a word. The showdown was about to start. Friday, 3:55 p.m. Boardroom top floor. Long glass table, 12 leather chairs, projector at one end, city skyline behind it. The chairperson, Mr. Raines, checked his watch. Let's begin, he said. First item, executive management proposal. Dad stood, buttoned his jacket, and walked to the head of the table like he owned the floor. Thank you, everyone, he said smoothly. As executive of my father's estate, I'm proposing a temporary consolidation of voting rights under my control to ensure stability during the transition. This will keep operations running efficiently. Quick note for the record, a board can sign off on management authority, but it can't hand someone other people's voting rights. Only the shareholders themselves can do that by granting proxies. He reached for a stack of papers, copies of the proxy he'd sent me. Before he could hand them out, I stood. Judge signed a temporary restraining order yesterday, I said. No proxy transfers allowed until review next week. I slid copies down the table toward Raines and the company counsel. Page 1, Second paragraph. The room went quiet except for paper sliding across wood. Dad's jaw tightened. "This is a family matter," he said, voice firm. "It doesn't need outsiders or courts. My daughter misunderstood. This was routine paperwork." I tapped the copy of Grandpa's letter in front of me. Routine paperwork doesn't get tros. Grandpa's will has a conduct clause. No coercion, no manipulation. He wrote this himself last spring. Equal means equal. Keep the company honest. Mark backed me up. I was there when he signed it. He said it 3 times that day. Equal shares, no exceptions. Dad switched tactics. "My daughter's twisting words. The company needs steady leadership, not legal games. Some of you heard rumors she's planning to sell her stake." I cut in. "Rumors started after you called directors last night." I held up printed screenshots, Slack messages, family group texts, timestamps highlighted. Every message came from numbers tied to you or people you called. Rains looked at Dad. "Is that true?" Dad spread his hands. "People talk. I can't control gossip." I slid another page forward. Amy's photo of his transition plan. Bullet points in black and white. Amy had forwarded the metadata too. Date, time, location. Rains read it slowly. "This doesn't look like gossip." Dad leaned forward, voice rising. "I was protecting the company. My father built this from nothing. The girl doesn't understand responsibility." I stayed seated, calm. "I understand deadlines, signatures, and court orders. Judge froze all proxy transfers until next week. Ignore that, and the company risks contempt." I pointed to the certified copy. His stamps on page 2. Company counsel. A gray-haired man named Lewis adjusted his glasses. "She's correct. A valid TTRO binds this board until lifted or modified. And to be clear, the board cannot confer shareholder voting rights. Proxies must be granted individually by the shareholders who hold those shares." Quick pause, fellas. YouTube just dropped this new hype feature. If you're hooked on this story, smash that hype button. It tells YouTube this video deserves to blow up, and it keeps even crazier stories coming your way. Thanks so much for your support. All right, back to the drama. Dad tried again. "We can't wait for court bureaucracy while competitors circle us. We need control now." Mark spoke up. "Control isn't the same as stability. The company's profitable, contracts locked, management team in place. No emergency exists here except the one you're creating." A director named Harris nodded slowly. "If operations run fine as is, why push this proxy today?" Dad hesitated just long enough for the question to hang in the air. I laid out the timeline. Proxy email sent Wednesday morning with 48-hour deadline. Rumors started Thursday night after I didn't sign. Transition plan surfaced showing a 1-year control grab. TRO signed Thursday afternoon, freezing all transfers. Every step points one direction. This wasn't about efficiency. It was about power. Dad slammed his hand lightly on the table. "I was executive for a reason. My father trusted me." "Trusted you to follow his will," I said evenly, "not rewrite it." Rains looked between us. "The tarot stands. No proxy votes today. Board will not act against a court order." Dad shifted again. "Then I move we adjourn until this legal nonsense clears." Before Rains could answer, Harris spoke. "Adjourn if you want, but when this comes back, we need full transparency. Documents, letters, everything." Mark nodded. "Agreed. Sunlight keeps things honest." Tension snapped back when Dad said, "You're letting lawyers run the family." I stayed calm. "I'm letting facts run the boardroom. Family talks can happen later. This meeting decides nothing until court review." Lewis, the counsel, added, "If the executive acted outside his authority, the court can remove him entirely. That risk belongs to him, not the company." Dad froze, calculation behind his eyes. He knew removal was possible. The will's conduct clause gave the judge that power. Rains closed his folder. "Until the court rules, this board won't recognize any proxy transfers. Meeting moves to standard agenda, contracts, budgets, operations." Dad sat down slowly, silent for the first time all day. For the next 30 minutes, normal business filled the room. Quarterly numbers, shipping routes, equipment upgrades. Dad didn't speak. I stayed quiet too, folder in front of me, like a shield. When the meeting ended, directors left in small groups, murmuring about TROs and court dates. Mark walked with me to the elevator. "He overplayed his hand," he said. "Judge decides next week," I replied. Behind us, Dad stood by the window, phone to his ear, shoulders tight. The power grab was stalled, but not over. Next week's hearing could remove him as executive completely or give him another chance. Either way, the fight just moved from boardroom to courtroom. Monday morning. Courthouse lobby smelled like coffee and floor polish. Ms. Patel met me by the metal detector, neat folder under her arm. "Today decides everything," she said. "Judge will hear both sides. Decide if your father stays executive or not. Got all exhibits?" I asked. She patted the folder. Proxy email, transition plan, TRO, witness statements, every page stamped and dated. Dad arrived 5 minutes later with Mom and Amy. He wore the same perfect suit from the boardroom. Mom crossed her arms like she was the one on trial. Amy looked like she hadn't slept. Dad walked straight to me. "Last chance to stop this circus. Sign the proxy. Tell the judge you overreacted and we end it today." I said nothing. Mom jumped in. "You're embarrassing this family. Your father's only trying to protect what Grandpa built. You owe him obedience." "Protect it from what?" I asked. "It's running fine until he tried to hijack votes." Amy stayed silent, eyes on the floor. Inside the courtroom, we sat on opposite tables. Judge Carter entered, robe flowing, serious face. "Case involving estate executive conduct," he announced. "Parties ready?" Ms. Patel stood. "Ready for petitioner." Dad's lawyer, a tall man named Reeves, nodded. "Ready for executive." Patel went first. "Your Honor, evidence shows Mr. Nicholas pressured my client into signing a proxy transferring all voting rights indefinitely. When she refused, rumors appeared, claiming she was selling her stake, undermining her credibility before the board. We have the proxy email, the transition and plan for extended control, and the TRO freezing transfers." She handed the judge the neat folder. Exhibit A through F. Judge flipped through pages, brow furrowed. Reeves stood. "Executive acted with discretion to protect company stability. The daughter overreacted, ran to court instead of handling matters privately. No law broken, no harm done." "Executive duties require neutrality," Patel replied instantly. "Pressuring beneficiaries, spreading false rumors, and drafting plans for control beyond the will's language violate that duty." Judge raised a hand. "Show me the plan." Patel handed over Amy's photo printout. Dad's transition plan. Bullet points in black and white. Judge read slowly. "Secure voting proxy. Extended control. Board approval." He looked up. "Mr. Nicholas, did you draft this?" Dad cleared his throat. "I discussed possible options with family members." Amy whispered. "He printed it at home," Judge heard. Reeves tried spinning it. "Brainstorming isn't wrongdoing, Your Honor." Patel shook her head. "Combined with the proxy deadline, the rumors, and this plan, it shows intent to consolidate power outside the will's terms." Judge turned to Dad. "Did you start rumors about your daughter selling her stake?" Dad's jaw tightened. "People talk." Patel handed over the Slack screenshots and group text with timestamps matching Dad's calls to directors. Judge studied them, face unreadable. Mom suddenly stood from the bench. "This is tearing our family apart. He's your father. He built everything. And you drag him into court like a criminal?" Judge looked at her sharply. "Ma'am, sit down. This hearing concerns legal duties, not family drama." She sat, arms crossed tighter. Patel called Mark as a witness. He testified. "Grandpa told me directly, equal shares, no exceptions, no pressure allowed." Reeves tried shaking him. "Did my client ever say he'd steal the company?" Mark stayed calm. "He didn't need to say it. Proxy plus rumors plus transition plan says it for him." Then Amy was called. She walked slowly to the stand, voice low but clear. "Dad left the plan on the counter. I took the photo. He told Mom he wanted control until next year so the board wouldn't question decisions." Reeves snapped. "He was protecting you too. Don't you want stability?" Amy's hands clenched. "I want the will followed. Grandpa treated us equal. Dad didn't." Dad glared at her like she'd switched teams mid-game. Finally, Judge Carter spoke. "Executive duties demand neutrality, honesty, and adherence to the will. Evidence shows attempts to secure control beyond the will's terms through pressure and misinformation. That violates fiduciary duty." He shuffled papers. "Court orders removal of Mr. Nicholas as executive effective immediately. Neutral fiduciary will manage estate until final distribution." Dad shot up. "This is outrageous. My own family turning on me." Judge banged the gavel. "One more outburst and you're in contempt." Dad sat, red-faced. Outside the courtroom, Mom started in again. "You couldn't let your father handle things his way, could you? Always had to challenge him." I ignored her. Amy stood next to me now, not them. Dad stormed past without looking at either of us. Ms. Patel handed me copies of the order. Fiduciary takes over this week. You'll get formal notice about final distribution schedule. Mark joined us. He overplayed his hand. Judge saw it clear. Amy nodded slowly. Maybe now things calmed down. But the fallout was just starting. Half the relatives were already texting me angry messages about betraying the family. Others quietly thanked me for standing up. And Dad, he wasn't done causing problems yet. The removal was effective immediately. The practical handoff finished midweek. A court-appointed fiduciary, Karen Lutz, now controlled everything: company shares, accounts, distributions. Her first email was short and cold. All estate assets frozen pending review. Do not interfere. That's when the family lost it. By Thursday, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. 3 voicemails from Uncle Ray. You think you're a hero? Judge doesn't know family history. Your dad built this. You embarrassed him. Disgraceful. Another cousin posted on Facebook, some people care more about money than blood. Sad. Mom texted the group chat. Your father held this family together. Now, strangers run our estate because someone wanted attention. I ignored them all. Karen copied me on an email that same afternoon. Financial records from all prior executives required within 48 hours. Sunday, Dad called a company supplier and followed up by email claiming he was still in charge and could approve new contracts. The supplier checked with the board, who forwarded the email chain to Karen. Monday morning, she filed a notice with the court. The judge issued a written warning. One more violation, and he'd face contempt. That evening, Mom called me. Why are you doing this to your father? He's worried sick about Amy. Just agree to give her part of your share, and we can end this nightmare. The will says equal shares. That's final. Ask Karen. Karen doesn't care about family. We do. Family didn't stop him from rewriting the rules. She hung up without saying goodbye. Amy came by Saturday. She looked tired, but said she wanted to help Karen with records from Grandpa's house since Mom refused access. They went together with a locksmith Karen hired. Mom stood in the driveway yelling while the locksmith opened the door under court order. Karen filmed the entire thing for evidence. Inside, they found tax files, old contracts, insurance policies. Karen boxed everything and left a copy of the court order on the kitchen counter before locking up. Meanwhile, Karen's accounting team discovered 2 accounts Dad opened last year under the estate's name, but outside normal channels. Total balance mid-5 figures. Karen froze both. Mom called me after hearing the news. Your father set those up to handle expenses faster. Now everything's locked because of you. Because he skipped oversight. That's on him, not me. Family dinners turned into battlegrounds. Amy told me later. Uncle shouting that I brought shame by letting a judge control things. Amy finally snapped at them. Maybe if Dad followed the will, none of this would have happened. Don't talk back to me. We stand by family. Then tell Dad to stop fighting court orders. They left angry, slamming doors. Karen met the directors Tuesday, laying out a 4-week estate review timeline with final distribution right after. Dividends would resume under board authority only. No special control for any family member. She also brought in a forensic accountant to audit Dad's transactions. Mom called it insulting, told relatives Karen was wasting money. By Thursday, preliminary findings showed no theft yet, but several undocumented payments, including one to a company owned by Dad's college friend. The judge scheduled a hearing in 2 weeks to review it. Friday, Amy moved into a small apartment near work. Mom accused me in the family group chat of breaking the family apart. Amy finally replied, I left because I'm tired of screaming every night. The chat went silent for hours. Weekend brought more drama. 2 cousins confronted me at the grocery store, accusing me of taking Dad's legacy. I told them distribution hadn't even happened yet. Everything frozen until court approval. They said Dad told them I was keeping all assets. I forwarded Karen the report. She added it to the interference file. Monday morning, Dad tried one more move, filed a petition claiming Karen's fees were draining the estate and demanding her removal. Judge denied it the same day, citing his previous violations and the need for neutral oversight. By now, even some relatives who defended him earlier stopped calling. The constant fights, failed petitions, and warnings from the court were wearing thin. Through all this, the company kept running normally. Contracts renewed, payroll met, shipments on time. Directors privately told Karen they appreciated the calm after months of chaos. She scheduled the final distribution meeting for 4 weeks out. Equal shares to all grandkids and children as the will required. No modifications, no side deals. Dad didn't attend the next board session. For the first time since Grandpa's death, the room felt like a business meeting again, not a battlefield. But I knew the final distribution day would bring its own storm. Our distribution day came 4 weeks later in a downtown law office. Neutral ground. Karen sat at the head of a long table stacked with envelopes. Final shares, dividends, titles, court order behind every piece of paper. I arrived first. Mark nodded from the corner. Amy came in a few minutes later, looking steadier than before. Then the storm walked in. Dad, Mom, Uncle Ray, Aunt Linda, cousins, the whole crew, voices loud before they even sat. Uncle Ray, whole thing is a setup, family cut out of its own legacy. They glared at me like I'd robbed them at gunpoint. Karen started without raising her voice. Each envelope holds your distribution per the will. Equal shares. Transfers filed today after signatures. Dad leaned back, smirking. So, after decades building this company, I get the same as kids who never lifted a finger. Pathetic. Mom, your father sacrificed everything for this family, and you, she pointed at me, dragged his name through mud to get a bigger cut. I stayed calm. Equal means equal. Grandpa wrote it. Court enforced it. Uncle Pete, you think hiding behind judges makes you right? We built this name while you sat in classrooms. Amy cut in. And while Dad tried stealing control behind everyone's back. That hit like glass shattering. Dad slammed the table. Control. I kept this family from falling apart while she lawyered up over scraps. He glanced at Amy like the company existed just to keep her comfortable, as if my role was just funding her next bailout while he called it protecting the family. Karen slid documents forward. Not scraps. Verified assets divided per the will. No one gets more, no one gets less. Cousin Mike, this is robbery. She turns the board against us. Gets Dad kicked out, now plays innocent. I finally looked at him. Board saw the plan, the rumors, the emails. Dad got himself kicked out. Tension snapped when Dad stood, snatching his envelope before Karen finished instructions. Take your equal share and choke on it, he said. This family answers to me, not courts. Karen didn't even blink. You open that envelope before signing release forms, you forfeit distribution by court order. He froze mid-step. Mark almost smiled. Might want to read the rules before pretending to run things. Mom started guilt-tripping next. You'll regret this when we're gone, she said. Money isn't worth losing family. I signed my release form cleanly. Neither is letting family treat you like garbage for 28 years. Amy signed hers next, hands steady. Dad tried one last stunt, told everyone not to sign so the estate couldn't close. Karen read from the order. If beneficiaries refuse, funds move to trusts automatically after 7 days. Ray cursed. Linda ranted about outsiders stealing our bloodline. Pete said Grandpa would have left it all to Dad if lawyers stayed out. Amy snapped. Grandpa added the conduct clause because he knew you'd act like this. She didn't even have to say what everyone knew, that Grandpa saw the favoritism years ago and left those words in black and white because he knew Dad would twist everything for Amy if given the chance. Silence for half a second. Then more shouting, overlapping voices, accusations bouncing around the table. Karen spoke over all of it. Sign or don't. The court doesn't care about tantrums. One by one, they signed, even Dad, scowling like the pen weighed 50 pounds. When the last signature dried, Karen stood. Distributions finalized today. Executive removal stands. Estate closes in 30 days. Dad shoved his envelope into his jacket. You happy now? Burned your family for cash? I looked him in the eye. No, I cut out the cancer so the rest of us can breathe. Leaving that room felt like walking out of a cage. Amy walked with me. Mark shook my hand in the lobby. Behind us, voices rose again. Uncles arguing about who should have gotten more. Mom blaming judges. Cousins complaining about lost legacy. Not my problem anymore. Next month, dividends hit my account. I paid off loans, put half into investments, and signed papers launching my own freight tech business with Mark advising. Amy moved into her own place, started photography classes, finally living without their noise. Dad sent one bitter email about betrayal. I archived it without opening. Mom called twice. I let it ring. Last I heard, the family still argues about who ruined things. I don't go to dinners. I don't answer messages. Grandpa left us equal shares. I left them the chaos they created. That was the day I stopped chasing approval and started building my own legacy. Do I regret court? Not once. I don't regret cutting them off. Family can be loud, toxic, entitled. But equal means equal. That was the end of the courtroom saga, but the aftermath carried lessons I didn't expect. For weeks after distribution, the family chat was a war zone. Half of them called me a traitor. The other half went silent. Old photos were dragged up, relatives posting passive-aggressive captions like, "Some people care more about money than blood." I didn't engage. Screenshots went into a folder, just in case. Amy and I started meeting on Sundays for coffee. She finally had space to breathe, and I could see her shedding years of pressure. One afternoon, she admitted, "I always knew they favored me, but I never realized how much it crushed you until I saw Dad try to steal it all." I told her, it wasn't your fault, but I wasn't going to let him rewrite Grandpa's words. Meanwhile, the company didn't crumble. In fact, it thrived under neutral management. Contracts renewed, trucks rolled, employees got their paychecks on time. The only thing missing was Dad's constant drama. Karen eventually filed her final report. No fraud proven, but plenty of irregularities that justified the court's caution. With that, the estate officially closed. My shares were registered in my name. Equal. Undeniable. The day the papers arrived, I sat at my kitchen table staring at them. Grandpa's margin note echoed in my head. Equal means equal. Keep the company honest. I framed one of the certified copies of his letter and hung it above my desk, not as a trophy, but as a reminder. A line in ink that outlived the shouting, the rumors, the guilt trips. Dad? Last I heard, he still blames me for destroying the family. Mom echoes him. They can stew in it. I don't answer calls anymore. Because here's the truth. The moment I stopped begging for their approval, I got my life back. My business is growing, Amy's finally finding herself, and the only weight we lost was the one they tried to chain us with. So, if you've ever been called selfish for wanting fairness, hear this. Protecting what's yours doesn't make you the villain. It makes you free. And in my case, it made me Felicia, the granddaughter who refused to sign her life away.